Now, there are populations around the world that we've studied. For example, the Eskimos. You know, the Eskimos are on the highest protein diet of any free-living population. They eat 25% to 30% of the total calories in protein. And as we would expect, the Eskimos have one of the highest rates of bone loss from the high-protein diet. In fact, they have the highest rate of osteoporosis, or weakened and porous bones, in the world. And they get it quite early in life, so that we can understand why. Now, that's in spite of the tremendous calcium intake Eskimos have. They eat as much as 2,500 milligrams a day of calcium, which is like drinking 3 quarts of milk. But they lose more calcium than they take in with that tremendous amount of calcium intake. So it isn't going to help them. If they're going to be in that high-protein diet, they're going to lose their bones. Now, there are populations like the Bantus in Africa, on the other hand, that are on a very low-protein diet, and they're also on a very low-calcium diet. The average Bantu woman who is breastfeeding is only taking in about 350 milligrams a day of calcium. Let me tell you how much that is. The National Dairy Council and the experts in our country say that anyone in our country has to have as a minimum 800 milligrams of calcium a day. That's equivalent to about 3 glasses of milk a day. Well, how can the Bantus be getting only 350 milligrams a day and getting by? In fact, a lactating female, a woman that's breastfeeding in our country, is supposed to have at least a minimum of 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. So how can the Bantus do it on 350 milligrams a day, almost 1/4 of what our requirement is? Well, first of all, in their low-protein diet, all the calcium they take in stays in the body. It isn't poured out through the urine. The second thing that happens is that the average Bantu woman has about 9 children during her lifetime, and she breastfeeds these children 2 years at a time. So she certainly is calling upon her calcium stores to take care of these, and yet they don't have osteoporosis. The children grow up well. The women have strong bones and strong teeth, in much comparison to the problems in our country. So you can find many, many populations on low calcium diets that don't have any problems at all. Well, you might even say to yourself, well, how did it all happen that the American standards are so high in calcium? Because after all, 800 milligrams a day is higher than is met in almost any country in the world. How is it that we have the highest requirement for calcium in the world? Is there something wrong with the United States population, that they need so much calcium, and yet they have such weak bones? We have an epidemic of osteoporosis in our country, weak bones as we get older, in spite of all the tremendous calcium that we have. Well, of course, we can understand that now, that the weak bones come primarily from the very high protein diet that will kick the calcium out of your bones almost no matter how much you eat.